Welcome to the SoulScape Show, where together we will explore and discover the depth and breadth of your soul. I am Gabrielle Spencer, a multidimensional intuitive channel and healer of broken hearts and souls, and your host. Today, we have with us the amazing and world-renowned Theresa Vee. She calls people to her who feel that they should have attended Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters before being sent out into the real world, into their greatness, helping them to create greater health and vibrancy while assisting them in finding the strength in their sensitivity and guiding them in the use of these superpowers. She is an international speaker, a spiritual teacher, a mentor, a master of the healing arts, yoga and wellness professional, and angelic channel. As a visionary, a love warrior, and a fierce stand for peace, she has been helping others to heal and accept their own power for over 15 years. She empowers sensitives to stand in the truth of who they really are so that they can live their purpose and feel alive and fulfilled. Today, we will be discussing healing through integrity, intention, and intuition. Please welcome with me, Theresa Vee.
It's recording.
All right. Hello and welcome everybody to the SoulScape Show. This is Gabrielle Spencer, your host, and I am here today with someone super special, and I'm so excited that she has made the time to be here in person live. Theresa Vee is here. Welcome, Theresa. In my pre-recorded, you're an amazing person. So we'll give all the particulars. But what really struck me about what she sent me for her intro is that she calls to her the people that belong in Xavier's School for Gifted people, let's say, right? And we all know that that's the X-Men, the people who can do extraordinary things that are totally beyond what is available in our current realm, right? And that they are actually everyday people, yet they really aren't. So I know we're going to have an amazing conversation, and I'm super excited that you're here. Thank you, Theresa.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me, and it's so nice to finally meet you in person-ish.
I know, right? This is how we do it now. we all are out there in the periphery, and we run across each other on shows, and we do, the same shows, but we don't actually ever get to talk. And it's really awesome to get to meet people that are out there, and it's amazing to me how we will all say similar things and things that are coming in at the same time, yet we haven't actually ever spoken in real life. And that just tells us that we're all connected. Mm-hmm. And that's what is so cool about this whole experiment that is going on as we're moving into this next phase of it. And, I want to talk to you about that because I listened to what you sent me. Thank you for your November forecast. So I just want to start there because, my goodness, it almost sounded like what I was talking about earlier today. Imagine that.
That's why I was so excited.
So tell me, go ahead, take it away. What are you feeling?
There's such a lot going on for us. And it's always, like you said a little earlier before we started recording, it's always going back to the first step. So we get so into this high level spirituality and figuring things out and using our new powers and all of the fun stuff that sometimes we sort of forget the things that we have available to us in every moment to really strengthen ourselves from the inside out. And because we're so super sensitive, our environment is one of those simple ways. And, when we're doing the things, we have the to-do list because we're also caretakers and empaths and all of a sudden the closet is full of stuff that needs to be gone through. And my favorite is the Tupperware doesn't have lids, drives me nuts, has to be fixed. But if it's not fixed, it's one of those little things in my environment that's just sucking my energy. So that's a really easy way we were talking about like what the angels were saying for the month, and they were talking about these little things, fix them so that you have more energy available to you every day. And there were so many other things, but that's the thing that's really been resonating for people. They've been sending me back messages like, oh my gosh, I fixed this and I feel so much better. But we forget those things, and it just, we know when we walk into a room, we're sapped by people's energy sometimes. So we know the negative effects of being super sensitive. But we also forget what a strength and a gift that is, and how simply we can actually energize ourselves by doing things like this, by eating foods that come from the earth. Eating seasonally is like the biggest thing we could do to give ourselves energy and align with Mother Nature at any point in time. So, you don't want to be eating watermelon in December. It's not good for you. It's not growing. Unless you're in an area where it's growing, then it's fine. So these are just the little ways we can super energize ourselves. And that's what's coming through right now. I don't know if there was more you wanted to touch on. But
well, I want to talk even about that, because what I was speaking about earlier was how, we are working on this higher vibrational aspect of ourselves, right? In our spiritual evolution and our conscious evolution. And I was addressing it as far as people saying, well, I'm in 5D. I'm working in 5D. And my understanding is, yeah, we are, but we are living still in a third dimensional existence. And part of that is honoring the human and helping the human aspect of ourselves to evolve to that higher vibration. And that's the only way we actually fully move into the 5D, because we're not all in 5D. If you and I are still sitting here in 3D chatting away, right? It's like, well, we have to now move into that human evolution piece, and accepting that we are human, and being that superhuman that you talk about with Xavier's school. Here, everybody, right here. We're not going anywhere. It's not tomorrow. Okay. And so we have to be able to do it. So what you're talking about is exactly that.
Yeah. And it's super interesting because the philosophy and the meditation and all of that. And by the way, I also wanted to talk about what you were talking about earlier about, I don't get messages in meditation. Like, it's not when you want them, it's when they're needed. And I wanted to kind of get to that because I love that you said that. But the three, so basically Gaia is ascending to 5D. Gaia has petitioned to ascend quicker than she would have otherwise for her own survival. And what we do know for a fact is that Gaia will survive this process. That's a fact. It's how will humanity survive with her, or will we even survive at all? These are all our choices. We're at a critical mass choice point. And so there are people, and you can see it in the global collective, that are refusing to ascend. They're in the 3D. They're even trying to get back to like 2D,
or
like,
lower,
where it's comfy under that rock,
Yes.
And then there are those of us who are striving to get to 5D. So most of us, we're still living in 3D, but Gaia isn't really in 3D anymore. She's more in 4D. So now we're sort of either on the very edge of 3D or we're in 4D, and then we're ascending to 5D. And that's why there's so much stuff coming up for us, is that anything that can't be carried into the 5D is being shown to us, like from inside of our bodies, from things we thought we had dealt with health-wise or emotionally or relationship-wise. They're coming up,
Yes.
and it's the same as what's happening with Gaia. Gaia is having these things come up. She's clearing, just like we would get a rash, get a cold, like I've been experiencing, or have something come up. Like a lot of people have been talking to me about cancers and stuff like that. Gaia is going through wildfires, and Gaia is going through flooding, and this is her way of purifying her own body. And what's happening with us as humans, we're made of the same stuff as Gaia, and so what's happening outside of us is happening inside of us. So no matter what we do, if our waters are polluted, we're 70 to 90% water based on what you're reading. What's happening inside of us. So we're purifying internally and externally at the same time. And as above, so below, as within, so without. And so this is a big thing. But we forget in the process a lot of times that the way to anchor heaven to earth is to have your feet on the ground, right? If we are not grounded and we're not participating in all of the amazing things this earth experience has for us, we are not actually doing the work because we're just sort of floaty and not anchoring anything. When we need to do this work, we need to be here, we need to be grounded, and we need to just enjoy what earth has for us and our connections with others. It's really important.
So much there, because I think that it's part of what we were just speaking about with honoring the human aspect of yourself. And it is taking care, like that's part of the package. That's what we're here for. We're the vehicles in order to help not just Gaia ascend, but for that mass consciousness to make it over that hump together, as we have all been talking about, that it is not a singular event. It is not a single person, that one guru, or waiting for Jesus to come, or whatever it is. We have to be able to be at that place collectively, and a large enough collective to tip the scales, so that we can make it over. And we have to do that in the physical. It's a physical aspect of it. So I know that you're talking about the health and how much that matters, and I totally agree. It's hard to do. It is hard to do. And even the people who eat organic and all of that, I mean, things are so polluted. So is there something from the angels? What guidance do they give for how we can do this? Maybe a little more easier than it is currently.
Yeah. Okay. So there's some guidance, but also Archangel Raphael is swooped in, and what he's offering to us is a transmission of a frequency that will help us to start clearing some of this stuff from the inside. So the frequency will sort of bounce out some of the things that are ready to clear, so they can clear with ease and grace. So he's offering to send that transmission through as we're meeting here and as we're talking. So just let me. Yes. Okay. And he's saying that if you want to receive, you just have to, in your mind and heart, say yes. The angels can't interfere with your free will. And so we always need to ask, and they need permission to work with us, unless it's a matter of life and death where it's not your time to cross, then they can intervene. So just say yes in your mind and heart. Let the frequency just resonate within you, and let it just move out any energy that's ready to be moved out. So this is one of the things that we can do with the help of the angels. Raphael is always available for this, and Ariel is also. She'll be working with us later on, she's saying. So that's really important. In terms of health, one of the things that I've done a lot of work in my own physicality, in my own humanity, to really change my health 180 degrees. And it came in increments. So the first thing is, don't expect too much of yourself right away. So a lot of people, they're like, I'm going to totally revamp anything. It's January 1st, right? Everything is changing. But that's not sustainable, because you have a life that you're already living. You have a to-do list. You have other people, right? So it's adopting one thing at a time, seeing how it works for you, and then keeping it if it works and adding to it, or letting it go if it doesn't and trying something else. So that's really important. Is we are very perfectionistic. We expect so much of ourselves where we would never expect that of anyone else. We would always be very gentle with everyone else and give them loving encouragement and support. But for us, it's like, well, why can't you start eating only vegetables and once a day, whatever it is. So that's important. And the other really important piece that helped me change my entire life is to start working with my body elemental. And once I started working with my body elemental, everything changed. And so that's definitely the invitation, is your body elemental really wants to work with you, especially now. So that's important.
Okay. Explain to me the body elemental.
So the body elemental is a being that incarnated with you. And this being has taken on all of your stuff, right? So it's incarnated with you to help move through all of these things. And it's in service to you. Its whole life is dedicated to being in service to you, being as healthy, as vibrant, and as energized as you can in this incarnation. And Gaia also has a body elemental. So our body elemental is super sensitive, and it's the part of us that responds. It's the part of us that's super sensitive and responds to anything in the environment. So what happens is there's all this stimulus coming to us all the time. And if we're not filtering it out for the body elemental, it just pays attention to everything and tries to make sense of it and bring it to us. So this is why things like meditation are important, so we can stop and focus and create a break in that action, so that then we can come back into alignment. And honestly, all we have to do is start listening to that inner voice, right? When you're at the supermarket, if you're walking through the supermarket and something pulls you to it, that's your body elemental telling you this is what you need, right? And if it's a ding dong, it's probably not your body elemental. It's probably your emotional body telling you
that's my son. Hey, Mom, look at this. No. How many grams of sugar is in that?
So if you're not a child and right. But generally when we have like extreme sugar cravings or junk food cravings, it's emotional body stuff. Mm-hmm. So if we even just start checking in with ourselves before we do anything, then that's all we need to do, is say, okay, what do you need today? And that's it. You'll get the answers. And it's just a moment of quiet with yourself. And your body elemental literally will be doing backflips because you've acknowledged it. It's been with you up till now. If you've not worked with it before, imagine incarnating just to help somebody out who's never acknowledged you. How happy.
As you're talking about this, what I was shown is Peter Pan's shadow.
Totally it.
Yeah. So that's how, now I understand what you're saying, because that's what I was shown is Peter Pan's shadow, and totally get it now. So that's fantastic. I know everybody out there knows Peter Pan, and if you don't, go watch the movie and you'll know exactly what Theresa's talking about. His shadow dancing around, and it's connected to you, but it's also separate. So it's I get it. It's doing that whole environmental thing. It's guiding you. And when he lost it, it actually created problems for him. Mm-hmm. So really interesting. Gosh, you got to love those early Disney movies, right? They were pretty amazing.
There's so much philosophy in some of those.
It's absolutely. So that's fantastic. So I have several things that we have done for health-wise regarding superfoods. Very big. My husband had cancer when he was 46. And so he went the natural route after surgery, and doing great many years later, 9, I think now we are almost. And so it's been really fantastic. But yeah, he did that 360 and then some. He might have gone a tad overboard, but it's a scary thing, having cancer and being told you have cancer. And so we found Boku Superfood, and it can be found at bokusuperfood.com. I am not an affiliate, although I started feeding it to my children about 2 school years ago, and I measured by school years because one day I just thought to myself, I'm going to start giving this to them for breakfast. And it made such a difference. My children do not get the flu. They do not have the sniffles, because before that, I mean, my son would have respiratory the entire winter through till May because, our weather's not even like it is in New York. It's kind of like that in between. It's not too cold and it's not warm. And, it's that germs just love it. It's like that in between place. Anyway, so it hit me one day, it just came to me. And since then, I've been giving it to everybody for breakfast and it's huge difference. And then I use Sarva food, which is the Mayan cacao blend, which is superfood and Mayan cacao and cayenne pepper. And you know what I put it in? My coffee. I put in my organic coffee. So now I get to have my coffee that isn't coffee anymore. But I love it. So that's breakfast.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's actually what I was thinking when you were talking about it. I was like, that would be great in coffee.
Oh my God. With my minute blender, the bullet blenders.
Yeah.
And I just zip it in there with some stevia and oh my God, it's so fantastic. And it's truly the best breakfast you could have because it's got all sorts of proteins and superfoods in it and it tastes delicious. So there are things we can do that are available now compared to even 9 years ago. But Boku was one of the ones my husband found to help him recover and become healthy again. So he, he was exposed to a lot of things out there in the environment, nuclear, I don't know what you call it. He was exposed to a nuclear plant, I guess is the best way to say it. And so what's interesting is he actually does not have very much body hair because that's part of that nuclear issue.
Radiation.
And so, right. So for him at 46, it was a lot of chemical toxicity that created the cancer. And that's what's happening to a lot of people and you don't even realize it.
Yeah.
So that's really important. But I want to talk to you beyond that health piece and that people need to do, adding that one or two things, because when you add superfoods, the truth is you actually don't crave things. You're eating them truly out of choice. Like I really want that chocolate cake just because I want it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the difference though, where you're not a slave to your cravings, but rather that you're choosing to do it, which is fine. So, but I want to talk to you about power versus disempowerment. And I would love your take on it and the angels' take on it, because I think it's evolving. And I'd love to know how they see that and how they see our interaction with our understanding of it.
Yeah, there's a lot of subtlety around this in the world right now, but there's also a lot of really blatant stuff going on. So it's a very kind of insidious thing because it's coming at us in so many ways. I know living in New York, walking through the city, you don't see anyone who's looking at anything. They're just looking at their phone. Right? That's it. We don't know much beyond any given screen. And so for so many of us, we're giving our power away to something else constantly. Like we're being fed thoughts instead of having our own thoughts, right? We're being subtly manipulated into buying things, so there's been a whole lot of different ways this is showing up. But what's happening is with us, with the ones who are really trying to ascend into the 5D, like we've been talking about, there's this call from inside of us to kind of shake some of this stuff off and to really start listening in again. And this is something that everything outside of us is designed to take away. Right? We're constantly being bombarded with distraction so that we don't stay in that place of aligned power. Because when we're in that place with the way the energy is on the planet right now, we can manifest anything, right? We can create anything. And the powers that be, they're used to having all the power to create what's there and what's needed. So this is a dangerous time in some people's minds to have people creating, the new world or whatever it is that we're world peace or anything. So it's just really paying attention to the places where we get distracted every day. It's like it's like that cartoon movie again, another Disney. It's like, oh, squirrel, it's where does that happen? What is our squirrel? And
Right.
then how can we start to notice those things faster, even if they're just thoughts? How can we notice things faster and come back to center? So I noticed for myself about a month ago, like I sat down to do some prayers and I couldn't even get through one without being distracted by something. And I was like, oh, no, 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 this is not okay. So it's how many times do we bring our mind back and reclaim that power? And that's really what it is. Distraction has become the easiest way for us to stay disempowered. And there's a pervasive feeling of, well, what's the difference? I can't do anything about it anyway.
I
But
agree.
then you see somebody like Greta, right, who just did the student strike for climate change by herself, and she's created a huge movement just by holding up a sign and striking. Like she's proved to us that one voice still can make a huge difference, and that the technology that we have available to us now can be used for good to be a force of great change in those ways. So we need to kind of gather those things as empirical evidence so that we don't go to the place of, oh, well, what can I do? I'm just one person, and let that thought kind of run a loop.
Do you feel that, I mean, as far as action goes, okay, so we're talking about the one person actually taking a physical action. How does that relate to the work that we're doing as spiritual beings and working on these other realms? I mean, there is a happy, everything, it's a dualistic place that we live in. This is the 3D, right? It has its polar opposites. And I feel like we have to bring that blend of this higher spirituality, but in action for the highest good of everybody. So when people feel disempowered, they're also out here, like they're disempowered here in the 3D. That also will affect your disempowerment and the higher realms as well. And that's the correlation I think that you're making for people is, here it is. You've got health, you have your physical human self, and you have your spirituality. It is time to merge them. You can't be separate anymore. It's not, here you are here, but then you're doing your meditation time, therefore that counts. And we're doing check marks, right? Put in my 20 minutes over here. I did, I did my walk and I did whatever. It's this merging. And I feel like that separation is what we're trying to address here, is that we've kept it separate, and it's time to bring it together.
Yeah, there's been a lot of separation in spirituality, and I think a lot of that was necessity originally, because some of these things didn't fit. Some of the things we're doing now didn't fit with the spirituality we inherited, right? So it was almost like it had to be hidden, or it couldn't be openly talked about, even if it didn't have to be hidden. And that's sort of not the world has changed so much, just even in the last 20 years. And now there's a way of like rectifying all of that. So I feel like there's an inherited pattern and paradigm, and this is actually what Ariel wanted to work with us with, so we'll talk about that in a sec. But I think you're absolutely right. Like the action has to come from a place of alignment. And I mean, I've heard you talk about this in terms of abundance. If you're doing all this work up here, in the realms, and then you're having a problem manifesting the flow in your 3D life, that's a pretty good indication that there's a disconnect. Right? Because it's no different. Like me sitting in this chair right here is no different than me sitting on this cloud when I'm meditating. I'm like, that's the same me. And if I can't flow in meditation, I can't flow. And the angels always say, always, if you're blocked in one area, you are blocked in all areas. You're not just blocked in relationships or money or health. You're blocked in everywhere. So understanding that when we move the needle in one area, it's changing everything. And so that's really important too, because there's also been separation, even those of us who really work to bring these things together. It's like, well, okay, so I got to work the emotional body, or I got to work the mental body, right? Okay, yeah, but that's changing all the bodies. So it's really openness to getting rid of so many labels that separate and just starting to allow all of the energy to come together into this form that is just lovingly called you. You know,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
that's
I have said and feel strongly that the more that we dictate and think that we know what it is that we're working on,
mhm,
the more you actually block yourself.
mhm.
Because your soul, your higher self, your angels, your guides, they all have a better idea of the fastest way for you to actually heal. They also know, I mean, I always see it. I do. I always see it like a mountain. And you've everybody's driven through mountains where they've blown out the mountain so they could put the road through it, right? And you can see all the layers of the mountain. And you can see how sometimes they're pushed and smashed together. And so there are pieces overlapping other pieces that, aren't as old as the pieces that are underneath, and the ones underneath aren't as old as the ones at top. And I feel like our own healing is the same way. It is not all perfectly flat. This was one lifetime, here's another lifetime, and it's all like this. It's all mashed together, and it's over one another, and it's heaped on other stuff, and we've glommed on other things and feelings and emotions and interpretations and perceptions. And so when we think that we know what we're working on, it's usually not going to get us to the bottom of the haystack very quickly, because we're working on some piece that may have nothing to do with pulling that one piece of yarn that would get out a whole lot more.
Yeah.
And so when we approach healing in this way, we tend to be at it longer because we're going after the symptom versus actually what created the whole ball of wax.
And that's sort of the difference also in certain medical communities.
Yes, absolutely.
Like the more holistic medicine tends to go after the underlying root, whereas a lot of Western medicine goes after the symptom first and then maybe gets to, and one approach may be better for you than the other right now, but there's integrated approaches. There's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything can work together. And it's just a matter of, again, going in and asking your body elemental, what do you need? And trusting that your higher self and the divine know better than you how to handle this. And so one of the things that I always love is, like, I always say this or something better, because I don't know. I could be sitting here saying, I really need a new car. And in my mind, what I'm thinking is I need to buy a used car because I have this amount of money. And, what if the muffler falls off, or any of those things. Meanwhile, Archangel Michael's sitting outside in a Lamborghini waiting for me to get it. Like, he's there to give it to me, but I'm focused on getting this Ford Pinto that's had two owners,
Yes.
and it's,
and you missed the
so
divine.
I can't even see that because I'm limiting myself to what I think I can have. And it's like that with health. It's like that with manifestation. It's like that with abundance. There is something to be said for being practical and listening in, but let the guidance lead you.
That's the key, though. That is so the key. I mean, you and I are talking the same language. I'm all about that practical strategy, whatever. But that only gets you so far. That's like 5 gallons of gas in your tank.
Mm-hmm.
And that's as far as you got with it. And then you go, wait, what happened? I thought there was a lot of energy for this, and where did it all go? And that's when people go, well, that didn't work. And most of them will turn around and walk away and be like, well, that was bogus. I just wasted all this time, energy, and money. But actually, it wasn't that. It was that your mind took over and shoved out the divine and the inspiration and the guidance and the nudges and all those things that come, right? And so then it's dead in the water because you didn't keep filling it with divine energy. And that's the big issue I think that a lot of people struggle with. And I know that I've said it so many times is, as much as I talk about this, I suffer from the same thing. I find that, I'm just zipping right along and all these things are happening. And then I'm like, wait, what happened? Where did all the energy go? And then you're like, oh shit. Oh, okay. I got to get back into it now. And I've got to put all that away. Right. And go back into what happens. And when I do that, the funniest things happen. I will get an email from somebody. This happened to me over the summer when I was just I was totally going through my own shift, but it was really hard for me. And it's what I was speaking about today. It's when I finally got to the place of understanding that it was about going to that next level of compassion, meaning not anything I ever would have, trust me, people, I would never have thought of this on my own.
That's when you know it's divine guidance, when it makes no sense.
It was so out of my realm. Like, I never talk about compassion. It is never I have not given one talk on compassion. So it was not in my wheelhouse. And so it came to me. I was like, wow. And then it came to me like, okay, I'm going to need some help with that, because I just need, there isn't anything that I know or understand exactly. So anyway, there was that. But what happened when I was going through this period was I pulled back from a lot of things that I would ordinarily be doing, right?
Right.
And in the pullback, when I finally got to the place of just letting it go, that's when I got an email from Meg Benedicte saying, hey, I want to be on your next season, and I have another guest too for you. And I laughed. I said, so I guess I'm doing another season.
Love it.
I know, right? And you go, okay, so this is the point that we're saying. Like, totally. It's okay. Pull back, let it all go, and just wait for the next piece to come in.
Yeah. There's also, I mean, you're like, oh yeah, I go through this too. We're human. It's part of the human condition.
That's right.
It's the push pull. And, I've gone through this a couple of times. Like, when I feel called to work with a mentor or a teacher, I know, that's it. And I won't go right away. I'll wait to see how the guidance comes, and if it keeps coming, and if it's consistent. And very often for me, these are big ticket investments. These aren't small investments.
Right.
And it's not something that you're going to have in your hand at the end to show for the investment. It's like an internal thing. So I'll try to talk myself out of it. And every time the guidance keeps going. And so sometimes the whole point of this is that sometimes we have to take the action first, right? There's no guarantee that it's all going to work out, but the guidance keeps coming, and you have to trust the guidance and take the action first. And so I'll do it, and I'll do what it takes to make the investment. And I have to tell you, I've done this a bunch of times. Every time the money shows up right away, because I've taken the action and I've shown the universe, I trust you and I'm listening. And that is when we rest into allowing ourselves to be taken care of, allowing the flow. Sometimes the action from universe can't happen before we take the human action. So, what we do is we're like, okay, well, if I somehow get a tax return for this amount of money, then I'll sign up for the thing. But sometimes it's, okay, do the thing and everything else will follow, because you're allowing. And that's
it's the big saying yes.
Yeah.
Because when you say, I'm going to wait for the tax return or the next bonus, or, as soon as I pick up some extra hours, you just push it away and you create a wall. And so then that's where the block is. So it is about being in tune with your inner self. So I want to know, as far as creation goes, because there's a lot of talk about this, and I think that we're moving to the next level of understanding, because that's how this works. I believe that we just keep reaching greater and greater levels and capacity. If we think about it as far as, I don't know why this just came to me, but it's kind of funny. But so I use hot rollers for my hair. Okay.
I haven't seen those in a long time.
Oh my God. Are you kidding? They're not like the old days. I mean, they're good. Anyway.
I lived with a bunch of people with no curly hair, so I remember them well.
Okay, well, we've come a long way. Anyway, the point of this is, when I was in London, I brought my curlers and a converter. Okay, and I'm thinking that's all I need, right? I have a converter, my curlers, I'm cool.
Oh no!
You know what happened? It took 2 seconds, and that thing went up in smoke.
I had a hairdryer last time I was in Europe.
Well, then I was told, oh no, you need them. They have a switch. Like, it's not just my converter. Like, you need the converter, but then you need to have the ones that can actually use the current that still comes through even in the converter. And I'm like, when did this happen, right? Anyway, my point of this is capacity, right? Just because you have the converter doesn't mean it's still the right flow of energy to help you get what you need. And that's why I'm sure they're reminding me of this story. I've never told it before, but needless to say, I had extra room in my suitcase coming home because they didn't. But the point is that when we're talking about capacity, we're talking about light. I'm talking about light, that it's about capacity of light. And so anything the angels can provide, and even Ariel, who wanted to talk about this empowerment piece, I think it's all related.
Yeah, so we have infinite capacity for light, right? Because we are spiritual beings having a human experience.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens is, so my favorite visual is like we come in with these like huge energetic, flowing columns, and then what happens over time is like it's like this little thread that.
Yes.
And so that's our capacity. And so when we do spiritual work, what we start doing is opening that column again, even if it's just for the time we're meditating or in prayer, but that column starts to open and there's more flow. And so in those moments where we can take the action and follow the guidance with little things first, okay? It doesn't have to be with a great big huge financial investment that's making you break a sweat. It can be like, oh, I'm thinking of Rose, let me give her a call. Like, we've all done that, but really starting to consciously pay attention to these little ways that guidance is coming. And then it starts to open that column more on a regular basis. And when we open that column more, we start to live more in the flow of trust. And when we live more in the flow of trust, creation happens almost instantaneously, right? And one of the amazing things is, like, I've always had a problem with the concept of karma, and because we're of the new age, and like that's gone, like done. So what you see happening now, if you're really in the trust of flow, is if you do something that causes a negative effect, it will rectify itself. So if you're on the road and you cut someone off unintentionally, within 2 minutes you will be cut off, and it's evened out. It's like squashed. So these are the things we are creating, these experiences at lightning speed right now, when we are in the flow of resting in trust, when we can be in that place of following the small guidance first. And these are all practical things. The angels are very, very practical. And what Archangel Ariel was coming in terms of healing, so Raphael was sort of just pushing all of the stuff that's ready to leave out of our cellular structure, right? So our beautiful cells, especially our fat cells store toxins. That's what they do. They're the little closets of our bodies, and they store physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual toxins. So anything we can't process, it gets stored there. And so he's just moving anything that's ready to be released. And so now I see the team of angels like vacuuming all of our auras, taking it all away. And then Ariel is coming in and saying, I am offering you a new imprint. I am offering you a new frequency of light that can fill these spaces in your cellular structure and can gradually expand as is right for you in your particular situation, to start taking over more and more space in your still mostly carbon-based structure, and moving it more and more towards the crystalline-based structure that we are moving into. And so there's an in-between stage that a lot of us are in various degrees of being between carbon and crystalline. And so this is a very ease-filled way for that to happen at the exact right place. So all you have to do is just allow her to bring in the energy. And she's also saying that while she's doing this, she's going to clear energy from our systems that is ready to be cleared around worthiness issues and around lack and limitation that has prevented us from being in the flow of our divinely perfect state, of our birthright, of infinite, limitless abundance. Good. And part of this shift in perception that needs to come with this is when we look at the world and most of the people who have the most of the money and the decisions they're making, every one of us is questioning various decisions. And I have yet to hear a spiritual person or a light worker tell me what they would do with infinite amounts of money if they had it that didn't include making this world a better place. So why not us? Why do we have such a problem with allowing that flow to come through us so that we can actually change the world for so many other people? More flow means more impact. So we're just going to shake off all of that stuff like we're dogs coming out of a lake. Just let it shake off you. Let it go. And let Ariel bathe you in light. And she'll continue to pulse this beautiful light into your system. And what she's also saying is for the next 3 nights in dream time, she will be with you if you are willing to let her work with you and to clear some of the emotional debris that might come up for clearing with ease and grace. So you don't have to experience it and go through it, so it can be cleared in the most ease-filled way possible. So the angels' work is usually very, very gentle, but incredibly powerful. So it's like, instead of the jackhammer of healing we used to experience in our system, like you could really feel it breaking through, it's more like a laser beam that's very focused and works. It's, it's like, as opposed to the old butter knife cutting through for surgery, it's like the laparoscopic version.
We like laparoscopy.
Yes, thank you.
Less painful.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. As I'm connected to you, it's really interesting, all the thoughts and the information and just all the things that are coming up in my own self, because I have such a connection with the angels as it's part of my lineage.
Mm-hmm.
Yet I don't work with them a lot, which is so interesting, but I'm so grateful to them. And what I was reminded of was that in my 18th year, I was saved 2 times. And both experiences very well had to be angels. And you had said something earlier about how they have the permission to come in and save you when it's not your time to die. And this is really interesting. I mean, and that's, I think, what triggered the memory, because I haven't given it a lot of thought. I've never spoken about it either, but both times were pretty traumatic. And I came out of both instances, one without anything wrong. The second was literally, I came out with the least amount of injuries, although I was quite injured. But I didn't die. But talking about instant rectification, is interesting. It was a skiing accident in upstate New York.
Oh no.
High up, like, so you're near the border. And I hit a black patch of ice, black ice, we call it up north. And so basically it means you can't see it until, like, there's snow over it, but it's hard ice, very slick. Anyway, I hit it at the top of a black diamond, double black diamond. And so for all you skiers know, that's like the most difficult. But anyway, so I was at the top of the mountain, and I the whole way down, I was like, just stay tucked, right? So I was staying tucked, but because there were moguls, I was going up in the air, boom, up and down, up and down. And finally, I went up in the air and I came down on a snow fence, which, for people who don't know, there are fences, they're almost like guardrails to keep you out of the woods, okay? So I came down on the top of one and hit my coccyx bone. I went whoof like this, and I went over into the trees anyway. But here's the crazy part. a man
Hmm.
jumped over the snow fence and caught me just before my head hit a tree and stopped me,
Hmm.
got me there and said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Okay," and disappeared.
Hmm.
Within a few minutes of me just sitting there trying to catch my breath, a woman went over that snow fence and hit that same tree
Oh.
that I was almost hit. That crazy? So anyway, this is what this reminds me of, is your story, is how, I mean, there are many stories in my family actually where we have been saved or something miraculous has happened. And it really reminds us that they are truly there for us in all these situations. So I fractured my coccyx and gave myself whiplash and my hip issue and blah, blah, blah. Lots of things, right? But I didn't die.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the second incident in my 18th year of life. And my mother, as you can imagine, my name is Gabrielle, so you know
Hmm.
that, like yours is Theresa.
Mm-hmm.
So, for those who know, that means we grew up Catholic, and it's just obvious, right? You're from New York; it just is not a big stretch. And so my mother, I remember her saying it back then, like it was your guardian angels that saved you. And so what we know is not only are they there, but they are doing so much for humanity. And there are so many more angels. And I would love it if you'd share on that. Like there's so many more angels than what we call on and what we know. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There are other frequency of angels. Like we talk about the ones that we know, but if they would expound, you would expound. I'd love it.
I work primarily with the archangels, and Michael overlights everything that I do, and then we all have angelic DNA also, so we're all connected in the lineage of our etheric DNA to one of the archangels somehow.
Wow.
Um, and I just want to say before I expound on this even more that I love what you shared about. Oh yeah, so growing up you heard, oh, your guardian angel saved you, like a lot, or your guardian angel this, but then try telling those same people that you're talking to angels and see what happens. Whole different ball game. But anyway, I digress.
I can imagine. I can, because you know what? Really, there's so much you and I can talk about after the show or another time
Yeah.
about that whole thing, because there's certain things that is allowed, even prophesizing is allowed. But then when it's coming through regular people, because it's your family and we want everybody to know this happens to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
In my own family, same thing. We all have that piece where it's harder for them to accept, but that is okay, because I'll bet, Theresa, in your own family, when the chips are really down, I'll bet you that they come to you, right? Yeah, exactly.
They
See,
don't always listen, which is
okay,
infinitely
we didn't
frustrating,
say
but
anything about
whatever.
listening too, Theresa. Come on.
I hope they're all watching. But anyway, so there's the archangels. Then we each have guardian angels as well. So these are angels that there's always at least one angel with us throughout our lifetime. Very often that angel stays with us, and there may be a changing of the guard based on what's going on. So we have between 1 and 3 I've seen guardian angels. Some of the newer kids, like the really new kids, I've seen 4. um, and and these angels can change up based on what we need, or if they're called to something else over time. And sometimes, that's been referred to as like dark night of the soul, when we have a guide or an angel change. Sometimes it feels like we feel their energy pull away from us, and we go through that place of feeling like we're really alone, and then the new one comes in, and we grow to know that energy without even thinking about it. But then there's like the cherubs and the seraphim, and like there's just so many different kinds of angels. Like the cherubs are the romance angels. They're the little ones that you see with like the bow and arrow, um, and so there's just so many different ways angels can express in order to help us. So you don't have to know what kingdom of angels, or like who's the right person angel for the job, all you can do is say, angels, I need your help. And they will come and help you, and the right team will come for you. If you do know, like the archangels, they all have energy that they're special with, but anyone can help you. But you're not going to call a doctor if you need a lawyer. So it's like, but so Ariel and Raphael do healing work, and Michael is protection. So there, but if you don't know, it's okay. And if you're also uncomfortable calling on the angels directly, you can call on the divine as you perceive the divine to send the best angelic team for the job. And that's how you can do that. A lot of people will ask me, well, I'm not familiar with calling on the angels. How do I do it? Mm-hmm. Right? And Archangel Michael, so the angels work with me in ways that make me laugh all the time, by the way. Humor is my language. So Michael, when I was like, how do I explain this to people? He like showed me one time, you call your friend, like here on the street, we would like whistle for our friend. You call your friend and you're like, hey, help me move this couch. Like that's how you call on your angels, like you just have to say they're there for you. They are your friends. They're not they're not here to be deified. They're here to assist. Mm-hmm. That being said, there's still a respect level that I have for working, but our relationship is half the time I'm just talking to them like they're my friends. And so they want to encourage that as well. You don't need to have any big formal thing. You can just kind of call on them, and they'll bring the right team, and they loop in. If you call on anyone, they're looping in your guardian angels, because those are the ones that are with you all the time. They're like, okay, what can happen here? What's safe for them? Like there's always a consultation when you're asking for help. It's awesome. They're amazing. Like Archangel Michael shows me all the time when I call on them for help. Like they go to a boardroom and they have a meeting of the meeting of the guides, what's best for me and everyone else, like the highest good of all. Yeah.
I think that it's really important, especially in these turbulent times, for every person to know and to freely call on assistance. I can tell you, in every freak storm or whatever, from the time I was a teenager, I swear to God, you are bringing up so many memories I haven't thought about in a gazillion years, just from my childhood, because all the times that we would call on the angels to surround our car. I mean, remembering blizzards in upstate New York, which back in when I was young, that was, that's like a category 5 nowadays, and just praying to the angels to surround your car and to get you to your destination. And I can remember one time that my sister and I, we were already graduated from high school, so it was in that in-between time. And we were in a blizzard and driving to Albany, or above Albany, which is, for people, that's near Canada. And just that, we were caught in a blizzard. And when we got there safely, everybody was like, oh my God, did you know that highway was closed? Like, you should not even been on the highway. And then you were like, no, we had no idea, but we knew it was bad. And we prayed and called on the angels the whole way. And so for everybody out there, no matter what, especially if you're in your deepest depression or deepest sadness, or feeling like things are really not going your way, and you need to have that reconnection with the divine, it feels like that's where you should be going. I mean, people ask me this all the time. It is not always about meditating, but it is calling out.
Yeah. Saying, I need help. Right? That's such a hard thing for us to say, because we're the people who are always helping someone else. So just saying, I need help. You don't even have to know what you need help with. You could just know that you are in it. I need help, and you will receive help. Like one of my grandmothers wasn't particularly spiritual, and she was going through a really hard time with the loss of I think it was a loss of a husband at the time, and she had a lot of loss in her life, and she just sat and she's like, I don't know what to do. And she said she felt an angel come, and she just felt this calm wash over her from head to toe, and for the first time she was clear. it may not have lasted very long, but she just felt their loving presence because she was in such a place of pain that in her own way she asked for help. And so, and what they're showing me, as you were saying, oh my gosh, you're bringing up so much from my childhood. So many of us shut off experiences from our childhood simply because there was no vocabulary of people around us to sort of explain those things, or we move on to other things and outgrow certain things. So part of the healing that Raphael's offering in your case, and I think with a lot of us tonight, is actually shaking a lot of stuff loose so those memories of connection and innocence can come back, and we can draw on those even more. We can use those as empirical evidence for ourselves that connection is not far off. Like, miracles happen every single day. And I had an experience too of like someone swooping in and swooping out. So it's just incredible. And really going back to that state of childhood wonder is what we're seeking as spiritual people, and I think you're absolutely right. Going to the angels is a really beautiful way to do a lot of this very simply and with great effect. Yeah, they're just, and they're so much fun. They exist in joy. So just working with the angels is going to bring a lot more joy into your life. They are so they're just such joy beings, and just invite them into your space and see what happens.
I think that's the best advice. I mean, I think that as we're all working, it feels like when we are attempting to find answers, that then the energy gets heavy. And that going back to that joyful energy, that's where creation is.
Yeah.
I mean, 20 years ago, or whatever it is, 18 years ago, when my husband and I got married, we had it engraved inside our wedding bands, "Love is creation." I remember that the jewelers were like, "Oh, that's so beautiful." But even 20 years ago, we were like, we understood it, but not even to the level we understand it now. So you know how we all like to say, well, gosh, I wish when I was younger, I knew then what I know now. But what you're saying and what the angels are saying is, okay, you can take all this that we know now and go back to the innocence of what you were then. That's what I heard you say when you just said what you said.
Absolutely. That's what the angels are all about, bringing us back to innocence, because that's the real place where we don't have, a little child, if you want to give them, so if you want to do energy work with a little child, they have no problem thinking that they're worthy. If you want to do energy work with a pet, no problem thinking they're worthy enough. Want to do energy with an adult human? Good luck. It's like there's all this unworthiness, all these layers you have to break through, all this trust stuff before the energy can flow. And some people, it's easier for them than others, but it's just, systemic with us. The other thing that the angels are telling me they really want to bring in here is, because we talked about powerlessness earlier, a lot of us as sensitives feel very powerless with knowing what's going on in the world, right? Like, we hide from what's going on in the world because we're too sensitive to deal with it. And this is a story in the spiritual community for a very long time, and it's caused us to adopt sensitivity as a curse as opposed to a gift. And I've heard Carolyn Mace say, well, if not you, then who? If not you, the people who are here to change the world, then who's going to do it? So knowing what's going on in the world is very important, because then you can not only direct your energy, but you can also call on the angels to, on behalf of the people involved, on behalf of decisions that are being made, to be in the room and lend their energy to just creating a space in that room where the highest good of all can flow through. And so that's really powerful for us in this moment, because a lot of us are just seeing things going on in the world and feeling very powerful, or like we need to disconnect, powerless, or like we need to disconnect. And this is a way for us to actually make a difference and just and help other people. There are people all over the world that we can call on their guardian angels to do what's needed for them. Oh,
Somebody just went.
Go?
I don't know what happened. Hold on.
Okay. I see.
I don't know what happened exactly.
Oh, I think what happened is someone
we
is
go.
unmuted.
Yeah,
And
somebody unmuted.
yeah. That's
Okay.
all.
But okay, so we just went full circle to when you were speaking earlier about how each one of us has the power to make a difference. And we're talking about how to make that difference using not just energetically what we know, but actively calling it in for whatever the situation is, surrounding those people in love and light for the highest and best to come in for them. I'm very big lately on just using the words, I call in divine intervention, because to me then it's unlimited.
Right.
Whatever needs to be, people. Bring it in. But it does need, it's almost like the secret code is the fact that we have to ask. And that's the way it is. And we have to remember back to the basics, like how we started our conversation. You have to go back to the basics. It's actually not complicated. It's more about consistency.
It is. And you have to be willing to swallow your pride and go back to the basics, because we've done a lot of work. Everyone on here has done a lot of spiritual work, and it's just the willingness to go back. And for me, the basic is surrender. I constantly have to go back to that, because when I'm running into a problem, it's because I think I'm in charge. And guess what? That's not the way it works.
I know. And I think that it's been coming up a lot. This topic has been coming up a lot. And I think the reason that it is because people are frustrated, thinking, I've done all this work. Why is this not going better? Why are we not already through it? And the reason is because we still have that aspect of our human self that has not been integrated with the higher aspects of ourself. There's no getting rid of anything. You can't just go, ego, poof, out, gone, see ya. You have to integrate it. And that's the part. It's like when I was talking earlier about accepting your humanness, that's part of the human aspect. That's how you're designed, but it doesn't mean it has to stay that way. You have to upgrade it too. Like everything, like you talked earlier, that you're not going to take everything with you. And I heard it recently, and it was given to me in the same way, but funny thing was that they showed it to me like an airport, and that how they only allow you to carry on a carry-on bag now, practically. Remember the days when we could pack 2 huge bags and a gazillion other bags you could carry on? Not anymore. And that's how it was shown to me, like carrying this little carry-on bag through the airport, like you're not going to be allowed to take it. And I totally agree with you. The other side cracks me up all the time.
Yeah.
They always show me funny things, and people are like, why are you laughing? And it's like, God, I wish I could give you just the visual of what they showed me or whatever, because it's actually funnier if you can see it.
Yeah, I mean, to a degree, I really sympathize with the pervasive feeling that's happening of like, why aren't we through this yet? Why is this still going on? I'm doing all this work. I'm tired, right? It's the end of the year. People are getting tired of all of the work they're doing, and it's starting to really feel like you've been swimming upstream. I get that. But then the angels put it in perspective, right? When we were talking about that, they were like, well, it took you 8,000 lifetimes to get to this point. What makes you think that a year of really hard spiritual work is going to get you through it, right? It's like we have this thing where even with healing, we go back to, well, how long did it take this condition to manifest in your body? Okay, so we need to allow the body time to reverse that situation. And it's the same here. We need to allow our spirit time to integrate all of this as it releases those 8,000 lifetimes of accumulated stuff, right? Even if you don't believe in other lifetimes, everything you've learned this lifetime, everything that you've been through this lifetime, how many years have you been on this planet? So, okay, so 4 months of hard work means that that's all done. It's just a matter of we're still kind of in linear time, even though time doesn't exist. And that's just how things move in the 3D. So we need to go above that and work there, and then let it take root here. It's important.
Yeah, it's important. And the important part too is finding and asking for help, finding the right help for you. And the truth is that everybody needs it. You talked about it earlier for yourself, is reaching out and knowing when you're guided to go reach out. And the same for me. I've shared the same thing, that when I got up against the wall with this whole compassion thing, it took me months to get to that place of understanding. And I realized I can't do this on my own. I have to ask for help. And I did. I sought out another healer and worked through it. And boom, it was like, holy cow, finally, I'm finally through it. But I knew that it wasn't about just waiting, but
Right.
that was because I had already done the work that could be done, that I could do, calling in help, but that I actually knew I needed help. I needed more help, like two really high vibe people coming together. Because when we're talking about frequency, I think the part that I was trying to get out earlier as well is in our 3D selves, we really do think linearly. Like we have a really hard time understanding that frequencies of the angels, frequencies of your guides, they're all at different frequencies. They're coming in from different existences. Some things that healers are able to do is step out of this timeline in order to help you heal. And so that goes way beyond I'm trying to heal it, because it's hard to heal your own self. And when we talk about two or more coming together, it is so that you exponentially are able to tap into something greater. Right? So imagine having a healer who can do that at a higher frequency than even you. It's like, just like when we talked and we're joking about technical problems. It always interests me when I sit on this side of the camera, the guests that I have on, where the entire time the video will go in and out of focus all the time. And then other times I'll have other people on and nothing happens. But I always know that it's because of the energy that's being generated. And it interferes with the electronics. It just does. It doesn't matter, just does. And we all know this to be true. And that's just a frequency thing. And that's what we're talking about, the frequency things that happen. And so in order to really heal the things that are deeper, not the surface stuff. And I always think of surface stuff. Remember my mountain analogy. I always think of it as the surface stuff is layers 1 to 5. And then after the 5th level in frequency, you're going to need a booster to get to a high enough frequency to get to what's really deeply held within your energetics. How's that feel?
Yeah, there's different, see, I look at it slightly differently, but I totally agree with you. Like, totally agree. It's interesting too, because what happens is, we're talking about the body elemental earlier, and when we start to develop physical sickness, or physical issues, that's the last stop. Right? Yeah. This issue has been talking to us from our spiritual body down through our mental and emotional bodies, and now it's in the physical body. We ignored it in all those places. Yes. And now it's here. So it's the hardest once it's in the physical body to actually treat and to actually release, because it's become the densest. So yeah, I mean, and it's so funny because you're talking and I totally agree. It's just, I'm looking at it from the opposite lens, but we're saying basically the same thing. You're going to need help. And honestly, that's the magic of anything. Even if it's not help that you're employing, sometimes you just need to talk with a friend. You can't get this thing out. And as soon as you hear yourself say it out loud to someone else who's holding space for you, it resolves itself. And you're like, oh, of course, why didn't I think of this as the solution? They didn't even need to do anything. They just needed to be present and hold the vibration with you. And so it can be as simple as that. And that's a true healing moment as well. So, finding someone when you're paying for help, that's one thing. And also it just happens in so many other ways in our lives. But we've lost that connection. And that's what I hear from people is the two big things I'm hearing is we want more abundance and we want community. Those are the two big things. And guess what? Can't be blocked in one area without being blocked in the other. So they're not separate issues. So yes, I agree with you. And I think both of those things are requiring deeper energetic movement, just like you're talking about. We're on layer 6.
We have to, I feel like I use the word forced because I'm I'm just that way. I'm not a big softie, actually, in my words, because it's basically, look, it's the more that you have to be pushed, the more you're going to feel pushed, and you're going to have to get to that place of just, okay, fine. I have tried to figure it out and I can't. And when you finally get to that place, congratulations, because
Yeah.
that's actually your breaking moment where you can actually then receive healing of some sort, and you can be led to where you need to go, right? It's because the resistance is that we're trying to figure it out.
Right.
And
Well, and nobody changes anything because they're super comfortable. Like you have to get
well,
to a point where you just can't take it anymore before you make the change. Like that's just the way we are.
human design is that it is only in the pain that we have our aha moments, and
Yeah.
we finally surrender, as you say. And it's really interesting you use the word surrender, and for the longest time, and people have been following me a while, know that that is not my favorite word.
Hmm.
And here's the funny thing about it is that you've said it, but it didn't trigger me, so that means I have grown.
The funny thing is that I never used that word. That's what they said to me. So what happens is
See?
I'm hearing them speaking and I'm sort of
Yes,
translating, or they're
yes.
showing me pictures and I'm translating. I've not used that word probably in 20 years. And there it was, and I think that part of it is because it has a big religious connotation. Also, surrender it means something a little bit different, and not to mention a military connotation as well, so it feels very different. But that it's the truth. It's when I throw my hands up and I'm like, all right, you take over.
Exactly. And this is the important thing, is that each person, we're the whole point of this show and getting to talk to my counterparts out there is to talk about what we're seeing. And what always amazes me is that we're all seeing and hearing the same things. And that is that people are still struggling and they're still annoyed and having difficulty getting through the 3D aspect when they're doing this higher work. And the answer is, it is time now to merge those aspects of yourself. No more separation. You have to bring it into your 3D life. Okay. So even when the bill comes and you may have no way of paying it, call on your angels. Show me, help me, hold me in your hand. I mean, this is really big for me lately, is invoking the visual of being in the hand of God. I don't know why, but this is like really lately for me, like a really big thing. But even in our discussion today, it has reminded me in a deeper level that my angels have always been here. And the other thing that
Hmm.
I wanted to ask, and it's totally off topic, but not,
Mhm.
is legions of angels.
Mhm.
Many times I've heard legions of angels and have been told or heard or have been awarded legions of angels. And I'm just curious, what is what is that? What is
It
it? What does it
is a
mean?
whole bunch of angels. So, um, it's very interesting because in the last few years, Archangel Michael's energy has shifted to one of much more urgency. And so when he works in situations like with me and with my clients, it's still light and loving, but there's this whole other aspect of Michael who's out there with the legions of light and the band of mercy dispersed around Mother Earth to be the protectors, right? And so these are very serious soldiers. Like these are the protectors and they are huge. They're humongous. So it depends. There's also different types of angels like we talked about. So these ones, the Legion of Light, we're talking like some big warrior type angels, but then there's also other legions that can be, like you said, awarded to you, and those can have to do with helping you with specific things in your life. So right before you said that, it's really funny because I saw Ariel standing behind you with a bunch of angels. So very often you'll see somebody walking with like a formation of angels at their back at that moment in time. And I've seen that a bunch of times, especially now when people are really going through it. They will show me there is infinite amount of angels. And I've been seeing also people's ancestors, even the ones that gave you a hard time. really lined up in formation at your back. So right now, everyone is on your side. Universe has your back, literally. And so that's it. Just picture, and they always stand in formation. They're always in formation, the legions. And it's really beautiful when you can see, because it's all this, and you'll hear it. Those of you who hear, you'll hear them. It's like a very high vibration, almost like a singing. It's incredible. So yeah, that's it. It's just a whole bunch of angels.
I've had clients who've had ringing in their ears after having healing work, right? And what I have received is that is, it's almost like your auditory is off kilter in a way. It's almost like you have to get it to the right channel for whatever it is you're supposed to hear. And a lot of times the people who have the most ringing I have found are those who are of the angelic lineage, and it's almost like they haven't yet gotten like the passcode to angel channel. And so there's like a little more work they have to do. So I'm curious, what happens?
So for me, that's always been, I love that you use the radio channel thing too. So it's always been, I always say it's a download. You know, when I'm hearing a ringing in my ear, I know I'm getting a download of something, and it's an energy that's just integrating into me, and that I will know it's something awakening within me, or something being given to awaken something in me. And so, and very often it will happen after healing work, because your vibration is raised enough to actually receive it, and you've cleared out space so it can come in. The other piece is, that's actually how I started communicating with the angels. Was it would be, I would start to go to sleep, and it would be like I would start joining a conversation that was already happening as I drifted off, and it would be like I already knew the conversation was in progress, and now I could participate. So I started to have this experience, and I was like, and then I started working with like hands-on healing work with the angels. They were channeling the energy through. And so we started working together. And then eventually what I started to see is, it wasn't only in session that I could hear them. I could tune the radio dial of my frequency. And by the way, we're showing our age here. People are like, what's a radio dial?
We look fabulous. What, are you kidding?
Absolutely.
Anyway, that's right.
No, but so you would tune the dial, and then I would be able to be hearing you and them at the same time. And it would be like participating in a whole bunch of different conversations, all with the same. So that's actually exactly it. I always say it's like tuning a radio dial, and then you're there. And that's what starts to happen. And the angels speak a very high frequency. So it's like a dog whistle, you know, you can't hear it as a human. But what I've noticed is the more I get to work with them, my nephews, they were so annoying when they were younger. They had this app on their phone that would play this high pitch frequency. Yes. And it was like, if you're this age, you should be able to hear this one, this age. And like they would play it at Thanksgiving, at the dinner table, over and over, until I would lose my mind. And I would be like, who is doing that? And then they'd be like, how could you hear that? You're not supposed to be able to hear that, you know. But it's because I work with the angels, and you all can too, that the hearing actually adjusts so that you can hear those higher frequencies. And that was my scientific evidence that my hearing was actually changing to pick up those frequencies.
This is part of okay, when we talk about sensitive, right? Mm-hmm. So is there a way, like, let's say you're just out in public and the noise is stronger for you, okay? Because this happens to me. Things are louder to me than they are to other people. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious, is there a way to dampen that the ambient noise? Is there something we can do to tamp that down when we don't need it to be on?
So I always tell my divine team, too much. It's too much. I'm in a human body. It's too much right now. When I was a kid, my dad's side of the family is very Italian. They're all Italian. And
I would never have guessed you were Italian.
See my profile. So it was like we would all get together in this very small space, and as the night went on, everybody would get louder and louder and louder. And as a small child who was super sensitive, I would actually black out from the noise level. And
Wow.
I remember that. And, you know, I was talking about it like a year ago with somebody. And I have to tell you, it happened last week. It has not happened since I was like 6 years old. And I forget where I was last week, but the noise got so ridiculous that I actually started to black out. And I said to my mom afterwards, I was like, you know, when I said that used to happen, it started to happen. She's like, yeah, I know, I could see it in your face. Like, she saw that look that she used to see in my face when I was a kid. And that was a moment where I hadn't had that experience in so long that I didn't do what I needed to do to kind of get out of the situation. But normally when I'm, you know, on a train or I'm in a large space or I'm at a concert or whatever, I'll bring earplugs so I can physically plug the noise if I need to. But I'll also, if I'm being overstimulated in any way, I'll tell my divine team, this is too much. I need you to back it off for me. And they will.
Okay. So, I mean, the thing is that we can't become hermits. This is, I think, and we can wrap it up with this. I want to ask you, what do you feel about 2020? I get the impression from people that it's like, you know, we're expecting at this point something really big. I'm curious what the angels' message is about 2020. What is it that we need to do to best prepare ourselves? What is ongoing? Whatever.
So the angels, what they've been saying is really focus on strengthening yourself for the rest of this year. Like finish this year strong. Do the things. And by strengthen yourself, I don't mean you have to do more work. It's actually probably the opposite, where you spend more time receiving. Let yourself receive from them, from others, for the rest of the year, because we've spent so much time like doing this year. And they really want us to be well sourced for when 2020 hits. That's what they keep saying, so that we can have strong intention, we can have strong focus, we can be clear as the calendar page turns. That feels really important. In terms of, I don't want to make false promises about what the year holds, because we're looking at a world that we know there's going to be more of the same, right? There's going to be more of the same. And what I mean by that is that, you know, we can talk about the world in the beginning of this broadcast, and it's a very different world now from what it was just when we started.
Right.
And so, but when we approach with strong intention, we are the anchors of light on this planet. And when we get derailed, that light gets derailed. So it's important for us to know what we want to create for ourselves and for the world next year, as before and as we get into it. And that's been their advice, and everything they have me doing is to serve the community in this way. So so I think that that's really, for whatever reason, very important. It's just to be well sourced as we hit with strong intention and as much energy coming from inside of you as possible. So really being energized from the inside out, as opposed to taking our energy from the outside of us in.
So important. This is such a pivotal time, not because anything major is going to happen. It is truly about that. I deliver it as preparedness. So very similar in the word, even. It is about preparing yourself in and out, all aspects, bringing yourself back together into wholeness, so that we can hold that light that we've been talking about and continue to source for ourselves in our current life. Because I don't really know that anything super spectacular is going to happen in 2020. I feel like it's going to be more intense energetically, and that in order to be able to handle those energetics, we have to be able to receive them, assimilate them, integrate them, and then bring them into the world, because that's our job, is to step out in the 3D. We can't be hermits anymore. We have to be able to deal with the public. We have to be able to bring in the light and hold it for all those who aren't holding it, in order to create that transition you talked about earlier for everybody.
Well, and the angels are saying, as you're saying, I don't know that anything super spectacular is going to happen. They're like, there's going to be lots of really spectacular stuff in 2020, right? But what happens is, being well sourced will help us to experience it. Like if we're not well sourced, we're going to miss those spectacular things, right? And then the other piece is, that we're still, like you said before, we're in duality. So when those moments of crisis or of sadness hit, it's not where we are then. It's all the work we've done before that gets us through those moments.
Correct.
Right? And that's kind of what they're saying, is not that there's going to be a great big huge crisis, but if we hit the year well sourced, we will be able to navigate whatever comes to us, whether it's incredibly joyous or painful. And that just feels really important, because it feels necessary throughout next year for us to be as balanced as possible.
Yes, exactly. What I mean by spectacular is I don't mean the second coming.
I knew exactly what you meant, but they were saying they really want us to appreciate the things in our everyday life that are spectacular, like just a rose,
Yes.
anything, but they really want us to get to the place where we're able to see those moments, because that energy is going to help us to navigate other things. That's
totally. I totally agree that all of that is true. And all of this is important. And I want to share with everybody that, and we're not going to get deep into it, but share with you that out at the website soulscape.tv, it's SOULSCAPE.tv, is Theresa's beautiful face. And that's right, with a button that says free gift. And I want you guys to go out and hit it. And that will be her page. And also she has a special offer out there. And the offer in just general terms is amazing, because it's a live show that she will have, our live meditation and healing session with the angels that she will be doing, as well as MP3s. And all of it is about what we've talked about today, helping you to live in this third dimensional world with an open heart, and how that's going to be your transition to creating that 5D aspect right where we are, wherever we are. Because frankly, I don't know that any of us really know, right? We're in the in-between. That's what I call it. I like to call it the in-between, because really we aren't in one or the other. We're in the shift, really. Mm-hmm. And so we need the community and the leadership and the understanding and the guidance from the beings who are here to assist us in order to be able to make that shift with as much ease as possible, and to make it a happy transition versus painful. I mean, the painful part doesn't even have to be painful. For me, it was painful what I went through this summer, just because I couldn't get through it fast enough, right? And for me, that's painful, okay? So it's not like I got, real pain, right? As other people would say, I didn't break an arm or anything. It just, it just felt like it took forever, which, most people would be like, it didn't take forever. In the past, that might've been 5 years, right? And so I should be grateful that it was only 4 months or whatever. And while I can say this, right, I know myself, and I know that it was extremely painful, because that was a long time still. 4 months to get through that whole process. And it means you go in and then you come out and you think, oh, thank God I'm through it. And then, damn, no, just, here's the next phase of it and whatever. And I think that's what we're doing and what's happening to us. So I encourage everybody to go out to soulscape.tv and click on Theresa's button to get her free gift, and go out and join her program, which will be live December 6th.
I just want to share something really quick, because Archangel Michael had me shift some things today. And I also wanted to throw in, if anyone does purchase the package, I'm also going to throw in this free gift that is called, we're calling it 21 Days of Shift. And so, well, nice. 28 Days of Shift actually is what they had me call it. So for the entire month of December, from the 1st through the 28th, we'll have a Facebook forum where we'll all be gathering, and every single day I will be sending healing energy from the angels through to everyone who chooses to join. So every day you'll be getting a healing transmission. And then 4 times over the month in the group, I'll be going live to just talk to you, answer questions, channel messages. So that's something that Michael was very emphatic about today, because this is what everything he has me doing is in preparation for hitting the ground running next year. So I'm also going to offer that to all of you. Anyone who purchases the package will be automatically invited to participate in that as well.
That's fantastic. It's exactly what we've been talking about this whole time. See, you kept it as a secret till the end, and we actually talked about it the whole show, that in actuality, this is what we're prepping for.
Yeah.
We don't actually know what's going to happen, and it doesn't matter. What matters is that we're prepared and we're sourced and we're able to, sail through it basically and help others to do it. Because the truth is that the others around us affect us too. And we have to be able to be strong enough. It's almost like you're the life preserver and showing others how to do it for themselves, but there's still that shift that has to happen. And so the more of us that are able to do it and have been through it and sharing our experiences of how we got through it, that's how you're going to help others to do the same, because every one of us is a way shower. There's not any one person that isn't. That's our job. That's what is your soul here to do? That's it. You're the way shower. You're here to help lead others as you have been led. And all of us have had mentors, right, Theresa? We've all worked with healers. We've all gotten healing work just to get where we are. And we continue. That does not end. And it isn't about ending it, actually. It's weird. Doesn't it change? It totally changes and change that perspective of we're needing healing to actually we're building something. And if you can look at it in this way, that you're building the next aspect, the next piece for your own ascension, instead of, oh my God, I have more stuff to clear. That's a big change, right? It just came to me just as I was talking. It's like, it isn't about healing and clearing. It's about building our future.
It is. And, to be honest, I've just given up the illusion that I'm done healing and clearing. I just know that as long as I'm in a human body, there's going to be more. So bring it.
See, and there's a great attitude. Like we said, we are still here in the 3D, and therefore there's still things that need to be done on a planetary level and on a human level. And it's not just all of our stuff. It's everybody's stuff, because we're still in mass consciousness. Even if we've disconnected, it is still all around us, and it is us who is shifting it for the larger group who doesn't know any better, frankly.
Yeah,
they're not calling on their angels, and they're not using the assistance that's available to them, to move through life in a gentler, kinder, happier way. And that is how we become abundant. Like you said at the beginning, you can't just be working on one aspect. So asking for the guidance for what needs to be worked on is how you move through it actually faster. That is how, when I was asked, what do you want to work on? And I was just like, compassion. Well, that isn't any of my 3D needs, right? But in working on compassion for myself, you will not believe that clients that have worked with me, they're like, oh my God, Gabrielle, since now you've done the work for me for compassion, because I just replicated for them what I went through, right? And they're like, oh my God, I see it now. I see it so differently. I don't feel bad for people or whatever. I just have compassion. It's been crazy, but you're like, but it opened up a whole new realm of things. And you're thinking to yourself, and that's what we're talking about with abundance, because yes, it brings in more money, but it brings in so much more, right?
Yeah.
So it isn't about going to a healer because you have A, B, and C that needs to be worked on. Just go, be part of the community, and allow what needs to be. And then you will have what needed to be opened. Yeah. It's kind of fun, actually.
It is, because we never, you could think, I stubbed my toe, I need to heal that. And the problem is actually somewhere stuffed under your liver. You don't know. And so it's just so much fun. It's so much fun.
And we want everybody out there to have fun with it. Get over the fact that you've been doing it a long time, because as Theresa and I have said, it doesn't actually end, but your perspective of it changes. And when you can laugh about it and just share it as like, yep, that happened, you've moved far, right?
Yeah.
it just happens, and it's all good. So I thank you, Theresa, and
Thank you.
I want everybody to go out there and sign up for Theresa's program, because God, you've made me remember and feel like, if you could feel my hands, they're like so hot. And I just know it's just the activation and the memory that I've been awarded legions of angels. And gosh darn it, I haven't been using them.
I love it.
That's terrible. I just can't believe it. But anyway, for everybody out there, just because now that I've been reminded, see, they nicely reminded me. And they reminded me of all the ways. So this whole conversation has really been about them reminding me, like you said, reminding me of how much they've been there for me when I didn't even know it and didn't even call on them. And that if I called on them.
Just beware. If you work with Gabrielle, just beware of what's coming now.
But do you see what's happened here? And I want everybody, I hope you all can see this, what's occurred, right? Because Theresa, not knowing exactly, but she's just helped me up level just by talking to her about this, just by being reminded of resources I already had that were awarded to me a long time ago. And I was told it, and she's even verified that she sees them. And the point is, I forgot about them. Is that sad? That's sad in a way, but I'm so happy. Now I feel like, yes! Oh my God! I have a whole legion of angels.
I love it.
So everybody out there, I love you. And I thank you, Theresa. Thank you. You made me so happy. And everybody, I want you to know this happiness too. And it's available for you. You need to ask, and you need to reconnect and move forward and reach out to the people who love you, which is us. We love you because you all are our strength and we are yours. Yes? So with that, everyone, thank you for joining us on the SoulScape Show. Much love.
We love you too, Miss Theresa. You're the best.
Oh, thank you.
All right, everybody. Good night. We love you. See you next time on the SoulScape Show. Much love. Bye-bye. Thank you for joining us on the SoulScape.tv show. Go to SoulScape.tv to access the many free gifts from our guests and for more great masterclasses and panelist discussions.